Hey folks, welcome to a sealed league that we'll be doing in Kaladesh Sealed. Been having varying amounts of success in this format, but trying to practice for GP Milwaukee. So we're going to go run through a sealed league here, start with the deck building, and play out all 5 matches, hopefully, as long as we don't 0-3 drop. Let's just go ahead and jump into it. Now, when I open the sealed, what I'm hoping to see, besides good rares, is like a core of green cards. Green has like the best commons, some decent removal, and more importantly, good mana fixing. So what I'm really looking to see and what I've had the most success with is like a green-black core that has splashes for removal, like Welding Sparks or Unlicensed Disintegration, or maybe some rares from blue or white. But usually I'm looking to be green. Often that's with black or with white, and then some splash cards in there as well. Prophetic Prisms, Attuned with Aethers are all really good to see in a sealed pool. So let's just jump in and see what we open here. Alright, well, see a Planeswalker right away. I'm going to go ahead and sort by rarity to see what we're working with. So Helirai is not the most exciting Planeswalker. I wouldn't consider splashing her in most pools. If you're blue-red, then sure, go ahead and play it, but I wouldn't usually splash her in, say, blue-green or green-red. We do have a Gear Hulk, though, and a Skyship Stalker, so red is looking pretty good for us. The Exemplar is not really playable, and these are also very good rares, so we have some good rares to build around. Kind of distributed in 3 colors, Jund colors, but the rares are not the whole story. So let's go ahead and sort by color again and see what colors are deepest. Take out some of the unplayable cards, hide the basics here. So we have an Aether Hub, which is nice. If we can get some energy, then that's going to be a consistent 5-color source for us. I like to separate the artifacts by the color in which they go. These puzzle knots are probably not getting played. In fact, blue is usually the worst color, and for us it looks like we haven't opened many blue cards, which is nice, and the ones that we have are not very good. Maybe Meltdown is decent, but Gear Seeker Serpent is decent, but not splashable, so blue is unlikely going to see play here for us. And red, where we noticed we have a lot of good rares, is not very deep. Right, so that's a concern because our rares are double red. So unless we have really good fixing, we're not going to be able to play those. Let's see. Puzzle knots are unlikely to be played as well. Decoction module is pretty good. It's not as good as the fabrication module, but it has its uses in certain builds. So we'll see if we can take advantage of it. We have a couple of good vehicles here. Monitor, so Freighter and Charger are both fine. It's not as good as the Barge, which is the 4-mana one that draws a card. The Freighter is really good though, and when you're building your sealed pool, you have to be aware of Renegade Freighter decks. So you probably want 2 to 3 good, cheap answers if you can for a Freighter. And in that regard, I usually play multiple. The green naturalized Appetite. So I would play 2 main deck Appetites if I had them. I don't think we have any here that I can see. But our green looks pretty deep. So we'll probably be green based like we were hoping. And we have 2 Attunes. With the Aether Hub, we can probably easily go 3 colors. And these double red spells are probably going to be castable for us, which is nice. So straight away, we know that red's not great. We're probably only playing, if we play anything, these cards. The Infiltrator is fine, but it's not something that I'm looking to play. And the Monitor is playable too. But the rest of these are not great. So if we play green and we play red, we're probably only playing these cards. Maybe we play green black and splash red if our mana fixing is good enough. And we have a lot of white, a lot of black, a lot of green. So let's go ahead and look at those colors. I'll consider these blue cards essentially. Lookout's not going to be played in our deck. We don't have many vehicles, and I don't play it very often. I've only played it in one deck, and that's because the pool was really bad. So I played like a red-black 16 land, double sky skiff, double lookout deck. Bruiser's good. We don't have a ton of artifacts. Just of note here, we have the monitor if we play red. We have the Cobra, and we have maybe a module and one bug, one freighter, but the artifact count is pretty low, which isn't usually good for black. Black usually cares about artifacts. Like we have this Daredevil, which is really nice. So we'd have to lean on Fabricate to make that work. And we do have Aetherborns, Gonti. We have another Fabricate creature here. Aetherborn Marauder is really good in green-black usually. There's like a +1/+1 counter theme in those colors. So we do seem to have a decent number of black cards. But the underhanded designs, we'll have to look at our artifact count again, because unless we have a lot of Fabricate, we don't have a lot of natural artifacts here. Rush of Vitality is really good. I don't like Thriving Rats. And the bug. Let's see if the underhanded designs works. So we'll look at green-black first. Trumpeter is good with +1 counters. Artisan makes a counter. We got Outriders. Our green is pretty strong. I run a Cal Prowler in some builds. I don't mind playing it, but unless we need the playables, I think we have enough like action here that we don't need to play the 6-drop as a win condition. But I don't mind playing it if we need to. So even in 2 colors here, we've got quite a few reasonable cards, reasonable options. Right. The curve is a little high, a lot of 4s and a few 5s. Not a lot of removal. We have basically 2 removal spells and a combat trick. It does play a lot of our beefier cards, right? So we get some powerful cards out of black. We don't really have many 2-drops. We have some good beaters in green, but we can get that basically no matter what build we end up with, we're going to be playing green. So black only offers us Gonti. It makes the +1 counter theme a little better with the Trumpeter. The underhanded designs is probably not great in this deck, but it's okay. And if we had more removal spells, I think I would be pulled into black. But for what I'm seeing here, there's not a ton of incentive. I mean, it's fine, but I don't think it's the best that we can do. So let's look at white now. I see a couple removal spells here with the Revoke Privileges. We have a Whiskweaver Angel, Pioneer, Gearshift Ace without many vehicles, unfortunately. 2 Hawks are good in green-white. But it looks like we're coming up a little short of where we want to be on playables here. Curve is a lot better than green-black, right? We have more 2-drops, and I have found that there are some aggressive decks in Sealed in this format, so you do have to be ready to protect yourself in the early game against like a red-black or red-white aggressive deck. If you play a lot of 3s and 4s without 2-drops, I've gotten run over a few times. For the Angel, we don't have a ton of targets for value on the Flicker. Fragmentize would definitely be in, but see here we have like we have 2 Revoke Privileges, but not a lot of spells or removal. We could play this Ornamental Courage. I think we would want to do that as a combat trick. We're still at 20 playables now. This is maybe a deck where I would consider the Prowler. We could play the Charger. But white doesn't give us much except for these revoke privileges, and if we wanted to, we can splash those off of a tune. So it looks like white is not something that we're going to be interested in. So these are splash options, but otherwise I think I'm not going to be playing white. Could even consider Fragmentize since we know that we don't have any appetites here. All right, so if we play black-red with our green, we have a lot of double black. We have Extraction, and we have Gonti, and we have Gearhulk and Stalker. So there's a lot of double colored spells. With 2 attunes and an Aether Hub, maybe that's alright. Problem is I think we want to be base black-green and then splash these at the higher end. So let's see what that looks like. We'll be cutting some of this, but all right. So this kind of makes me want to get rid of the Essence Extraction just because it's double black and I'd rather be surviving on 1 black source. We can take the Charger out because I don't think we want just another 5-drop in this build. We have enough power if we end up splashing, but we don't need another 5-drop. Again, we're just really top heavy on the curve here. I don't think we can do these. Unfortunately, our red is just too bad. Doesn't support us playing our best cards. I mean, the Gearhulk is it's the worst Gearhulk, so that's whatever. The Stalker is nice, but I don't think we can warp our mana to play those. And if I'm going to splash removal, I'm going to splash the Revokes. So we can look at green-black splashing white. We can play the Rats since we are in need of 2 drops, but this one's just such a bad defensive card, so I don't like it. Not having 2 power the turn that you play it makes it really only good in, well, I was going to say an aggressive deck, but even then it's only attacking for 2. That's the problem with it, is it doesn't block well and it doesn't really attack well, so I generally don't play the Rats, but we may need to here. I could play the Puzzle Knot also as just another artifact and another 2-drop. We're not going to play the Monitor probably if we're not splashing, but it might be in there just for curve. And do we have uses for the energy if we're not splashing with a tune? We have Servant, we have no Rhinos, we have a Tiger. That's really all. So like this module and the attunes may not even want to be in here. Maybe we don't splash because the attunes don't do anything for us except get our white source. But we need a little bit of removal because we have only extraction, rush, excuse me, underhanded designs, and then another combat trick. So not really where I want to be. Do we have removal anywhere else? We have a harness lightning, 2 revokes. Creeping mold is not something I really want to play. Yeah, it doesn't look like we have a ton of options for removal, no matter what color we go. So our removal basically has to be our board. We have to be able to block well. And without 2 drops, that makes it a little awkward. We have an artisan, which is a good blocker. Let's see, what else we have? Most of our creatures are better at attacking than blocking. And we don't have much in the air, do we? We have the artisan, we have a marauder, and we're pretty weak to flyers after that. So if our deck is slow, and it doesn't block well, and it has no answers to flyers, sounds pretty bad. Maybe we do end up green-white because the curve was quite a bit better there. And getting to play 2 hawks with our green creatures is also pretty good. If we play blue-green, we get the Aether Theorists, Trade Winds, a Serpent, I guess. We get this Aether Meltdown. We can look at green-blue, but I don't think we have enough cards there. Maybe black goes with a different color. We have a decent number of playables in black. And Gonti and a couple of our better spells are in black as well. So if we're not splashing, then maybe black can go with a different color and we don't need green, but I like the green core as well. Take this out for now. So the decoction module probably comes out. We really don't have many energy consumers, so it's not worth playing. So we're looking at blue-green. Alright, so now we have combat trick, a removal spell, some better blockers, and we need to splash because we don't have enough playables. So what does Saheeli copy in this deck? Can copy the Stomper, which is pretty good. Can copy the Serpent, which is pretty good. If I splash, I can splash the Harness Lightning and Saheeli. Can probably play the Charger in this one. It's sort of removal, and it's just a big thing, which is kind of nice. We can also splash the Revokes and Fragmentize. And I like those, I think, better than the Harness Lightning and Saheeli Rai. So we can splash these 3. Now we have a little bit more interaction. We don't have a ton of creatures anymore, so we have 12 creatures left. We may want to throw something else in here. I don't like the turtles. They're just 0-3s. They're just not very strong, in my opinion. Especially when we have 2 Aether Theorists. We don't need the early blocker. Yeah, and we're at 18 lands and 2 attunes, so that's 20 sources of mana. We really are looking for 3 more cards, and I can't even find one. We can play a Prowler, we can play... I'm looking at the white cards, there's nothing really else that we want to splash from white. If we were more aggressive with our mana base, we could do this. Taking the white cards out. So now we'd be really stretching our mana a bit more. We have a Servant and we have the Aether Hub, so that's not like out of the question. I just finished a pool where I played base green white, and I actually splashed Saheeli's Artistry off of 2 islands, 2 attunes, and a Servant. And I was able to cast it reasonably reliably. It was stuck in my hand a few times, and I had to work for it, but it worked out well enough, and it was worth the splash, it felt like, in that deck. Here we have 2 double red spells, so it makes the mana much harder, especially when we want an island early for the Aether Theorist, and most of our deck is green, including double green. So this would be 18 mana sources, because we have 2 attunes and 16 lands, but I'm actually okay with that. Based on the cost and power level of this deck, I think we want to play more mana sources just so we hit all our land drops in and make our mana work so we can actually cast these spells. This gets us up to 15 creatures, which I like for our 2 vehicles. Our curve looks reasonable. So even though it's greedy on the mana, I think it's a really good deck. So this is definitely an option. I'm going to save this one. See, I'm going to add some mana here. So Aether Hub. I'll want at least 2 mountains. And I want... The reason I like going up to 18 lands here is I like having 9 green sources for the attunes. And the question is how many blue sources we need. We don't have that many cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 4 might be enough. That's sort of the question to me, is 4 islands versus 3 mountains. I think 4 islands is okay. It gives us 6 blue sources for turn 2 Aether Theorist. I would like 1 more, but going down to 2 mountains feels pretty bad. Going down to 8 green also feels bad. I also don't know if we want Ornamental Courage in this build. I guess it's fine. We don't really have a lot of other combat tricks here. So just throwing that one in. And it's a good defensive combat trick, so I think I like it. This gives us 1, 2 removal spells, but some better blockers, big creatures, a good top end. Gets to play the Planeswalker, which is reasonable. I don't think we're stretching our mana too much to accommodate it. So I think this is a good option. And what else do I want to look at, though? We can look at black-white just to give that a test. Few pretty bad creatures going in here, just seeing what we're working with. So again, the 4s make us really, or the black makes us really 4 heavy. At least the white gives us a few 2-drops. And removal, we have a decent amount of removal here in black-white. We might not even need this puzzle knot except for the fact that it's an artifact. We can probably take out the club security since we're already at a lot of 4-drops. That's our worst one. And I don't like Herald of the Fair all that much, but it just fills this hole in our curve at 3. And how many artifacts do we have in this build? We have 1 fabricate creature in white. And we have a bug is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So underhanded designs might not be great in this deck. I don't like taking the risk that it's not turned on, and it forces our hand into fabricating all of our creatures when we play them out, because we just can't afford not to have 2 artifacts. I think I can't play it. We could play this live fast though. That's an option. But I think this is worse than the deck that we started with. There's no real reason to play this one. I'll save it just in case we do go back to that at some point. We'll have it out, an option for us that's built at least. I want to make one more cut and then just add mana. Herald of the Fair is just the worst card, so I'm going to cut it out, even though it is disruptive to our curve. That's fine. So add some mana, save this deck so at least it's available to us when we're in the league games. And then the last one I wanted to look at again was green-white with a splash, because our curve in green-white was actually reasonable. So this will be the last one, and then we'll start playing the games here. So this is not bad. Even if we don't have the attunes, we're still only 2 playables short. So if we need to streamline against somebody, I think this is probably a good option. Maybe better than black-white. And again, we can play this Herald of the Fair. We could play Inspired Charge since we have 2 Eddy Trailhawks. And we have some trample creatures, so that can get through a pretty reasonable amount of damage. Maybe that's our last playable. If we were to splash, we can't splash the red. We can splash, maybe Harness Lightning, but it's not worth playing 2 attunes and a mountain just to splash the Harness Lightning, I don't think. And then as far as blue cards, there's just nothing powerful enough. We can play Aether Meltdown or Harness Lightning as just like a cheap removal spell, but splashing for a single removal spell just isn't worth it. Can't splash the double green or the double red and black. We have Gonti, we have Essence Extraction. We could potentially splash the Daredevil and the Marauder. How good are those in this deck? Alright, so we, again, don't have many artifacts. We have 1, 2, 3. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 fabricate creatures. So that's 7. I don't know if the Daredevil's worth it at 7 artifacts. It seems not great. But the Marauder, I think, is pretty good in this deck, right? We have Trumpeter, Artisan, Pioneer, right, 5. I guess we only have 5 ways to make counters. I thought we had more. I guess they're mostly in black. Yeah, it just doesn't seem worth splashing either of those either. In fact, I probably would splash the Daredevil over the Marauder based on what's in our deck currently. So if I were to do that, it would probably be Herald out, Daredevil in, and then the Attunes in. But without any Rhinos here, without like Longtusk Cub or Rhino, I don't really have a lot of use for these Attunes, which makes me not want to play them. We have Eddie Trailhawks, about it. The Hawks could be good enough just because we want to be able to attack in the air with our green 4 and 5 drops. So the Attune with the Hawks is actually not bad. Then we don't have to play this Inspired Charge. And the deck gets a little less gimmicky and plays better cards if we do it this way. And at that point we could play the Pillar Bug too as just another 3-drop. But really a 3-mana 2/3 is probably no better than a 3-mana 3/2. Actually, what we could do is play Rush of Vitality. I think I like that. Rush of Vitality is really good with the Renegade Freighter, because once you crew it, that's when they might target it with a removal spell, and you can just save your guy, and that can just win you the game on the spot right there. We should only need 1 swamp with the 2 Attunes. Save that one. This deck looks pretty good. But I still like the look of our first deck, I think, better. This one has a slightly better curve, and it's more evasive because of the Hawks. This one's a little greedier, but the power level is higher. And in Sealed, I just want to go with the deck that's a little more powerful, I think. So to me, that looks like this one. It is greedy, but if the mana doesn't look good enough for us in the first couple of games, we can go ahead and switch to the green-white splashing black version of the deck. But let's go ahead and start the league.